boys in pen. See, the album, most of y'all motherfuckers call the money shot. Y'all already know what y'all rights are. We think the rights the opposite of your left. See, we have these rights guaranteed to us. I ain't taking my burger, nigga. And once they get revoked, I'm gonna cut my finger off, nigga. Bueno, es hora de revolución, motherfucker. Burner stash, loaded up with hollow tips, cause politics can turn your city into the Gaza Strip. Military industry justify sales like a drug dealer lyrically. Fucked up physically, but having two sides doesn't imply symmetry. Cause Philly to Philistine, our children of fricassee. Time's up, like the Celestine prophecy. My paper is folded now, no more chances to copy me. Them ghetto philosophies that get yourself killed. If I don't sell them the product, somebody else will. America, like it or not, I represent you. Teach me, show me the weapons to use against you. My spray hands used to sack cities for New York, bitch. Now I'm Alaric, Gayseric, 476. Smart motherfuckers from the hood learn history. Stupid niggas never learn shit and die religiously. Rebel arms locked and loaded. The only law once the government is corroded. The Second Amendment. My life might be intense, but my rights will not be infringed. The Second Amendment is a propaganda for weapons companies or necessity in the country. Second Amendment, yeah. Notice get with talents, not for wildness, but checks and balance. Second Amendment. Walk around town with the pen strapped down on my side. No front, just in case I got a smoke.
Hey guys, it is another Anarchist Weapons Wednesday, and thanks to my new pursuit of a degree in weapons technology, I'm moving to a bi-weekly format so that I actually have time for my classes and to do my projects and everything else that I need for that. But this time around, we have two pieces out of Texas, reminding us that in the rest of the U.S. that they're not nearly as pro-gun or fiscally conservative as leftists and a lot of the GOP in Texas want you to pretend that they are. The jackasses in Montpelier reminding everyone the Free State Project hasn't really done pretty much anything in New Hampshire. Maryland proves the indisputably tyrannical nature of red flag laws. And of course, as always, our red flag, our red flag man. Yeah, well, you know, and that's true too. Our Florida man of the week. So again, let's go ahead and get this on. First, our news from Texas, a state which has been far less pro-gun than people seem to want to think for a long, long time. They finally decided that maybe it might please the crown if people are able to protect themselves and their belongings in a Hurricane Harvey type of circumstance. Just maybe. A thought. Texas bill allows residents to carry guns for a week after natural disasters. This one from the New York Post. A new bill narrowly approved by the Texas State Senate would allow residents of the state to carry handguns open or concealed for a full week in the wake of a natural disaster, according to new report. House Bill 1177 passed 16-15 Sunday night and will land on the desk of Governor Greg Abbott. I'm not from Texas, don't blame him. Greg Abbott, the Dallas Morning News, reported, if he signs it into law, the bill would permit any Texan who can legally own a firearm to carry their weapons for up to 168 hours after a state or natural disaster is declared, the paper reported. Now, that should be noted. It's very important. It's after it is declared, so it's not after a natural disaster. So the law doesn't allow for you to say, oh, God, there was a tornado in my trailer park, and then you get to carry your guns around. It doesn't really work that way. It is really more of a, once the governor declares this official state of emergency, now you get 1 week to carry all of your weapons around with you for protection. The current law in the Lone Star State says Texans who can legally own firearms don't need an additional license to openly carry long arms like AR-15s. But in order to carry handguns openly or concealed, Texans have to obtain a license to carry, requiring them to take a course, which is ends in a shooting test that they also have to successfully complete a background and pay a fee. All of those together in order to carry your weapon in Texas, which is allegedly so pro-gun. That's right, Texas is not a constitutional carry state. Following Hurricane Harvey in 2017, gun owners pleaded for the rules to be loosened, but while gun control groups pushed back, the NRA, in a rare act of half-heartedly supporting gun rights, for the first time in ages, let's be honest, screw the NRA, supported owners' pleas, insisting the changes would help Texans to protect both themselves and their properties from looting after disasters. Gosh, because, that's never been necessary before, ever. I can't imagine a single previous incident where people might possibly have needed to protect their belongings or anything before. Never seen it. The bill, as it was originally filed by Beaumont GOP rep Dade Fellon, ironic name, would have permitted Texans to carry for a full week after a natural disaster. Senate sponsor Brandon Creighton of Conroe had changed it to 48 hours, but last week it was switched back to 1 week. Senator Joan Huffman, one of 3 Republicans who voted no to the bill, responded, quote, "I would say you obviously do not," end quote, teasing that she still had the opportunity to filibuster it. Huffman argued that the bill could, quote, "raise issues for law enforcement trying to patrol the state in the aftermath of a hurricane or another disaster." She said, quote, "It's really, really poor public policy that is not well thought out. It is not solving a problem, it is creating a problem." Yes, because there are no such things as any problems that might arise during a disaster where you might need to ever worry about your belongings, because it's not like people loot. I mean, they're only foraging for supplies, right? I mean, like things like televisions and stereos and all of the food that you needed, and so they're just trying to survive. They didn't do nothing. They didn't do nothing. Republican Senator Kel Seliger and Robert Nichols also voted against the bill in addition to all 12 Democrats, which is, super shocking. Super shocking, people. While I applaud Texas for figuring out that maybe, just maybe, people don't really want everyone in a disaster zone to know they're armed to protect themselves, as would be the case with open carry, laws like this just simply shouldn't have to exist. Everyone has a human right to defend themselves, intrinsic to their being a human fucking being, and they shouldn't be subject to the whims of government. This is doubly important in a disaster scenario when defending yourself, your family, and your livelihood from opportunists and desperate, unprepared others, because let's be honest, fellow preppers, most people are fucking unprepared. Being able to defend yourself from that, it's absolutely essential. And to pretend that this would cause any issues with law enforcement is just plain hilariously disingenuous. I mean, the the law enforcement response to Katrina that took, what, like weeks? Days? I mean, it certainly wasn't in any kind of a timely response before law enforcement showed up in New Orleans in response to Katrina. During the LA riots, did police ever even really respond? Or was it, I don't know, maybe a group of guys that you may have heard of? The Roof Koreans. I really need to get me some Roof Korean morale patches, because these guys were badass, man. Badass. There won't even be cops in the area after a major disaster. That's just not going to happen. It's never happened before, and it certainly isn't going to happen anytime soon. And even if there are, unless they're also looting and robbing opportunists, Okay, I guess that I'm repeating myself. I said cops and then murdering, robbing, dangerous opportunists. That's kind of goes without saying. But surely they have nothing to fear, right? I mean, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about, right? And again, from the state where everything is bigger except for your rights or often the intelligence of most people, via ABC News, Texas lawmakers approve safe gun storage program despite NRA. Lawmakers in gun-loving Texas have quietly gone around the National Rifle Association by slipping language into a massive spending bill that would fund a $1 million public safety campaign on gun storage. The last-minute move late Sunday sets up a political test rarely seen in Texas for Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who must decide whether to veto the spending or to ignore NRA opposition and approve the program. Because, see, this is how it works. You want to get something passed, and you know that it's unpopular, you go ahead and just slide that little bastard right in on top of a bunch of stuff that nobody could possibly want to oppose, which is in general going to be a spending bill. An Abbott spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment, and the Texas legislature adjourned on Monday until, and I'm so not making this up, 2021. That's right, Texas, your state legislature has adjourned. Not working. You're still paying them. Not working until 2021. It is the 5th month of 2019. So that's cool. The campaign for safe home gun storage is a small item in the 2-year, $250 billion with a B dollar state budget, and it was fiercely opposed by the NRA. I just love that crap, man. Anyway, and gun rights activists. That's right. That's right. Even CBS, NRA and gun rights activists are separated. So think about that for a minute. The measure failed to get a vote and appeared all but dead weeks ago. Then budget negotiators, the majority of whom are Republican, added the funding into a budget bill. Ching! I appreciate my cleverness. Anyway, they added into a budget bill. The legislation was approved Sunday night by the GOP-controlled state legislature. Quote, I have full confidence that the governor will look at it hard and realize it's all about saving lives. I hope there is no discouraging him, Gil Schweitzer, executive director of Texas Gun Sense, said Monday. Gun Sense. As if somehow it's sensible to spend $1 million to tell people not to be irresponsible dicks. Okay, then. Abbott has said he would support promoting gun safety, but he has also bowed to pressure from the NRA and gun rights advocates, on issues such as stiffer penalties for negligent gun storage, as well as, quote, red flag laws, and, quote, laws to keep guns away from people deemed dangerous to themselves or others. More on that later. Oh, God, I'm going out again. Creating a new safe storage campaign in Texas would be a rare, quote, defeat for the NRA, which has long flexed considerable muscle in a state with more than 1.3 million handgun license holders. That's also important. I talk too much, I don't smoke enough. It's my problem. License holders. Remember that, Texans. Texas lawmakers have steadily expanded gun rights over the last decade. That includes a Sunday night vote to allow anyone who can legally own a gun to carry it openly or concealed for a week after the natural disaster declaration. That's the one that we just covered. The NRA and its state affiliate, the Texas State Rifle Association, have worked to beat back new restrictions on gun ownership. including after 2 recent high-profile mass shootings, one at a church in Southern Springs in November 2017 that killed more than 24 people, including a pregnant woman, and a shooting at Santa Fe High School near Houston that killed 10 people and wounded 13 others in May of last year. The proposal for a safe gun storage public service campaign came after the Santa Fe High School shooting. Police have said the then 17-year-old gunman took his father's weapons from their home, as if somehow safely storing them equates to complete inability to access them by every other human being in the home. But this is the world that leftists live in. After this Santa Fe shooting, Abbott's gun law proposals said he wanted to, quote, encourage the millions of law-abiding gun-owning Texans to embrace their personal responsibility for gun safety. Bills filed by Democrats to have the Texas State Police Agency create a safe storage campaign never made it to votes in the House or Senate. The NRA lobbied against them, arguing that gun rights groups and gun manufacturers have similar campaigns that are already widely distributed to gun stores and shooting ranges. This is, of course, true if you're involved in the gun world. And one public hearing, the NRA lobbyists warned lawmakers that a campaign designed by the Texas State Police could easily be corrupted by anti-gun rhetoric. Oh, no way, man. Now, Abbott has line item veto power in the budget, meaning he could strip out the safe storage campaign without scuttling the entire spending bill. Alice Tripp, legislative director and lobbyist for the Texas State Rifle Association, said the group still opposes the program, but isn't in the business of asking for a veto. If that isn't the most spineless shit you've ever freaking heard. We don't do that. Governor Abbott does not need that kind of advice from us. We bring information to the table, Tripp said. If he calls me, I would tell him that. So I just want to point out here really, really quickly that essentially what they're saying is, while we oppose this bill, we would never encourage the governor to go ahead and use his executive power and the separation of powers as listed in the Constitution to actually make the bill stop. We just go ahead and we say these things, and then we spinelessly and cowardly hide behind, well, we only provide information, so that we don't have to come up with excuses for why we didn't ever fight any harder. This is pretty typical of the NRA. Advocates for the Safe Storage campaign say it's needed far beyond efforts to stop mass shootings. Yeah, just throw $1 million of money stolen from you, the taxpayer, at a campaign run by the government and the police to remind people to store their weapons safely, because that will definitely stop psychopaths from being psychopaths. Right? Ernest Benn famously said, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. And Milton Friedman said the government solution to every problem is usually worse than the problem itself. Increased spending to remind people not to be irresponsible is going to. This is a guarantee. You can take that to the bank and call me a prophet later. Inevitably lead to locked up, inaccessible storage mandates. The same kind of things that you see in Illinois and New York and California. Let's see, who else? Maryland, Massachusetts. Who else has? There are a bunch of other states that have these exact same laws that say that you have to lock up your guns in a very specific way, or you can be charged with a felony. A felony for not storing guns, even if you live alone, for not storing guns according to the way the state wants you to store those guns. And thanks to Texas's existing licensing requirements, they already know who has guns. Do you honestly believe that they won't demand inspections? We've already seen it happen. We've seen it happen with the red flag laws. We've seen it happen over and over and over again, the exact same crap, all the time. It's always the same. Oh, this is for your protection. This is for your safety. This is just, it's for the children. Won't you think of the children? And then, as soon as they have the opportunity, now they start taking your guns. Now they start looking for those excuses. Again, more on that in a moment. But again, how do you think you boil a frog without a lid on the pot? That's exactly what this is. This is boiling a frog without a lid. Turn the heat up, turn the heat up, turn the heat up, and it never notices until it's too late. And the worst part is that the NRA and the FUDs that are part of that will continue to support this crap going, yeah, well, I guess it's only a little bit of tyranny. I guess it's only a little bit of tyranny. I guess it's only a little bit of tyranny. Here's my freaking question. If you were going to drink water, how much poison do you think is an appropriate amount in that water? Because I'm going to say 0, and I'm also going to say that slowly increasing the levels of arsenic is probably not a good idea. I hate to break it to you, but you are not, in fact, Wesley. You are not the Dread Pirate Roberts, and you are not going to spend the next several years building up a resistance to iocane powder. This is going to kill gun rights slowly but surely, and continuing to compromise on this stuff can only lead to that. And finally, I want to point out that this entire bill thing was bipartisan. And what did the indefatigable George Carlin famously say? He said, bipartisan usually means that a larger than usual deception is being carried out. And now we head to New Hampshire, home of the Free State Project, a political movement as useless as the dumpster fire that is the Libertarian Party, where no fewer than 3 gun control measures just passed through the Senate via the Associated Press in Concord, New Hampshire. 3 bills aimed at preventing gun violence have cleared the state Senate. The Senate on Thursday passed bills imposing a waiting period between the purchase and delivery of a firearm, requiring background checks for commercial gun sales, and enabling school boards to declare gun-free zones on school property. That's right, basically everything that this porcupine little fuck tried to push through is being undone in one fell swoop, and they are powerless. Again, political parties don't work, people. Ever. Politics doesn't work. You ain't changing it from the inside. While all 3 bills previously passed the House, the Senate made changes to each and sent them back to the House. Quote, with homicides on the rise, including with firearms, it's now more important than ever that we pass common sense gun violence prevention legislation. Senator Martha Hennessy, Democrat from Hanover, said in a statement, quote, today's Senate votes move New Hampshire forward on common sense gun reform that strikes a reasonable balance between protecting public safety and Second Amendment rights. No, there is no a reasonable balance. The Second Amendment guarantees you the right under U.S. law to keep and bear arms. Now, you have that right whether that amendment existed or not, but it's named. There is no unless. There is no except. It is simply there. You have that right. This is a load of crap, and the pretense of this, on top of that, homicides on the rise is a load of crap. Statistically, the FBI, the CDC, the National Database for Firearm Statistics, something, all of them say that actually violent crime is continuously on the decrease, and decreases significantly when the legal carry of firearms is allowed. But the first bill would create a 3-day waiting period before a gun could be delivered to a buyer, which is present in a lot of states. I live in Wisconsin. That is, in fact, a case with pistols, just not with long guns here. And that is in contrast to the House version, which called for a 7-day waiting period. Opponents called it an attack on gun shows and auctions, probably because it freaking is. But supporters said creating a buffer between impulse and action could prevent violence and suicide. This is despite the fact that every study ever done on the subject has said that that is a load of bullshit. They're going to continue to parrot this crap because no one's ever willing to call them out on their shit. Under the background check bill, all transfers of gun ownership will be subject to criminal background checks. The legislation also would close the so-called Charleston loophole, a thing that doesn't actually exist, used by the shooter in a 2015 massacre at a historic black church to buy a gun. It actually isn't a loophole. It's actually a built-in failure to the NICS system, and it's always going to be there. The gun-free zone bill would allow individual school boards to develop policies regulating the possession of guns on public school property. Any proposed policy change would have to be presented at a public hearing to get input from students. Students. Yes, the people that they don't trust to buy guns themselves. The people that increasingly they don't even trust to make a decision on smoking themselves, that they don't trust to make a decision on drinking themselves, that they don't trust to vote. Those are the people that it needs input from. Those people. Opponents of gun-free school zones argue they would criminalize the behavior of otherwise law-abiding citizens and would embolden would-be school shooters because they would know teachers wouldn't be trying to stop them. Gee, you think that's what opponents say? You think maybe that's because criminals don't obey signs? You think maybe that's because gun-free zones are just fish and barrel zones for psychopaths? You know what always stops mass shooting incidents before the shooters stop themselves? Other people with guns. Always. Unless the shooter kills themselves or stops on their own accord. It is always people with guns who stop those mass shooters. Always. Prove me fucking wrong. Prove me wrong. Show me even one instance of a mass shooter in the past 20 years who has stopped shooting, not because of a guy with a chair or because everyone was just unarmed and he decided, oh, this isn't fair, and laid down his own weapon. Show me one incident where it wasn't stopped by somebody who's actually got a gun, because whether it was a private citizen or a cop, that guy had a gun, and that's how you stop mass shooters. Not only that, the FBI and CDC statistics both confirm that more than 98% of the time, armed citizens at locations of mass shooting scenarios reduce both the duration of that mass shooting and the casualties that are associated with it. It's like 98.4%. Of the time. It is almost always that they reduce the amount of it. Now, it's not that they completely stop it. It's not that they completely deter it, because if a psychopath wants to be a psychopath is going to be a psychopath. But they reduce the number of casualties and how long that shooting goes on. Always. Always. Every time they intervene. So, again, making good people defenseless does not make bad people harmless. We have to go over this so many times with these people. Just because the law-abiding citizens can't defend themselves doesn't mean, contrary to what was that, Nancy Pelosi that said that? I don't even remember. Liz Warren, one of them said, oh, well, if the mass shooter finds out that everybody else is unarmed, then he's just going to lay down his own guns. That's just human nature. No, it's not! It's not, and it never has been. You can't apply regular human nature, even if that was regular human nature, and it's not. But you can't apply regular human nature to a psychopath who's already decided he's going to go and shoot up an elementary school, or a middle school, or a high school, or he's going to go shoot up a mall. Like, these people don't have the normal thought processes anymore, because normal people, and I realize this may be shocking to many of you, more normal people don't go out and shoot a bunch of people. That isn't what they do. So, I don't understand. I mean, and on top of that, all you're doing is you're just making it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to obtain legal means to defend themselves and exercise their rights. Do you honestly think that when a psycho goes to a black market gun dealer and buys a gun out of their trunk, that dealer is going to be like, oh, wait, man, whoa, I totally forgot. They changed the law. Sorry, I'm going to need you to go ahead and take this form and go ahead and fill that out in triplicate, please. If you could just go ahead and fill this out, I need to run your background for these stolen firearms I'm selling out of my trunk to be sure you can legally own a firearm, because that's the law, and I wouldn't want to do anything illegal. On top of that, as it is, with the current background check system, there are 8.6 million transactions per year processed by federal officials. Of those, only 112,710 were rejected, and only about 12,000 of the 112,000 were even referred for further investigation by BATFI. See, in general, criminals know they can't legally get guns. They're well aware. In most cases, when background checks are rejected, it's a case of mistake. People who honestly believe that any criminal offense that they may have does not preclude them from owning a firearm, that then find out over the course of the Nix investigation that they cannot, in fact, own a firearm under the law. So, miraculously, all of this doesn't actually stop determined criminals from obtaining firearms. Who would have guessed? And now via CBS Baltimore. Told you this one was coming. Red flag laws prove that yes, they are in fact coming for your guns. The headline is more than 100 weapons and 35,000 rounds of ammunition confiscated under Maryland's red flag law in Prince George's County in the last year. Yeah, one county. One. All of Maryland, that's one county. More than 100 weapons and thousands of rounds of ammunition have been recovered in Prince George's County alone. That's that one right there. You'll notice a few things. One, it's a very small county among lots and lots in the state of Maryland. And two, surprise, surprise, it borders on the District of Columbia. I realize that might be shocking, that might mean that it's pretty left-leaning and anti-gun, but it is. Oop. There we go. Sorry about that. My controls are being stupid. All right. The law allows only immediate family members or law enforcement to actually petition the court to take those weapons away from people who are either a threat to themselves or to others, according to the people who say that. It's been less than a year since the new red flag law took effect, but Dawn Stoltzfus of Moms Demand Action, or as I like to call them, the Mad Cows, said it's already proving to save lives in a state that hasn't had a mass shoot. All right, anyway, quote, it gives them that time to take them out of that moment when that gun might be in front of them, Stoltzfus said. Because that's totally it. I mean, mass shooters, it's all spur of the moment, right? Like, they don't sit there and they don't plan for months and months, and they don't, do any of that whole, like, going, I need to do this, and here's my infill strategy, and here's my exfil strategy, and here's how I get the gun, and here's the ammunition, and they don't do any of that. It's all just spur of the moment. Spur of the moment. Like the Columbine shooters, that just happened one day. They had a bad day, and they just decided they were going to go out and shoot a whole bunch of people, right? So far in Prince George's County, the sheriff's office has served 56, quote, extreme risk protection orders, collected 100 weapons and 35,000 rounds of ammunition. Stoltzfus said it is protecting people from getting caught in the line of fire, which is what she said happened back in June 2018 when a gunman opened fire and killed 5 people in the Capital Gazette newsroom in Annapolis. I'm sorry, but you're telling me that a disgruntled employee opening fire and 5 people died? Whatever. That had nothing to do with spur of the moment, nor did it have anything to do with random mass shooters or any of that. But okay, cool. Far too often, after there's active gun violence, family members of law enforcement point to warning signs. Family members of law enforcement? What the? That they saw in the shooter, but were not able to act upon, Stoltzfus said. The family members of law enforcement. So she's straight up saying, like, even law enforcement doesn't agree with her, but the families, the people who know those pigs, they're the ones who say this, so we should listen to these people who have no law enforcement training or anything else, but, maybe they totally would have gone into the army, but if a drill instructor got in their face, they totally would have punched him. I mean, come on, Mad Cows. Come on. A report in January showed during the first 3 months of the red flag law, Maryland's judiciary fielded more than 300 requests to remove firearms from individuals, including 5 cases involving threats against schools. Stolfa said the law is a tool to keep the community safe, even though there is absolutely no proof that it does anything of the sort. We'll never be able to prevent every tragedy, but this legislation certainly gives us another tool to take action when we think someone is at risk to themselves or others. Risk to themselves. So what you're telling me is that you now claim, Mad Cow, you claim that you have ownership of other people and get to decide when they get to check themselves out. Not them, because they don't own their own bodies. No. It's you, because somehow you, part of the Moms Demand Action, even though statistically very, very few of them are actually mothers, and most of them are mothers of adult children, but you definitely are qualified for that. Once weapons are seized, the person does go before the court and I'm quoting this article, has the chance to plead their case and defend themselves. Let that marinate for a minute. Just think about it. Think about that sentence. Has the chance to plead their case and defend themselves. Thought about it? That's right, kids. They have the chance to prove their own innocence. No innocence until proven guilty. No Fourth Amendment protection. Certainly no Second Amendment protections. You simply lose your guns. That sounds familiar. I think somebody important in the political spectrum may have recently said something about appreciating that and enjoying it. I can't remember who might have said something about how due process was a load of crap and they didn't like it, even though it's guaranteed by the Constitution, and, morality. But, I can't really remember who exactly it was who said that, but it was somebody. I guess we'll never know. This is just another step forward in the total disarmament of America, people. But this shouldn't really surprise anyone. We all warned you. But the NRA supports red flag laws constantly. They supported most major gun legislation. The Republicans called red flag laws, quote, common sense gun control. And they bend over backward for appeasement. All the time. Hence this. Buck, 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 buck. Don't forget, the NRA sponsored the GCA, they sponsored the NFA, they sponsored FOPA, they've sponsored every major piece of gun legislation that has ever really been put forth. They supported Trump's bump stock ban. The NRA is not about gun rights. They never fucking have been. The NRA wasn't even founded for gun rights. It was founded to promote marksmanship for a militia. That's what it was founded for. Go ahead, fact check me if you don't believe me. True story. Because I know more about guns than you. Now, in one county alone, that red flag law that everyone who is pro-gun, truly pro-gun, that the FPC, that the GOA, that every truly pro-gun organization in the country said was a bad idea. That red flag law has resulted in 100 confiscations, more than 300 requests for confiscations, thousands and thousands of rounds confiscated. And then the people don't even get due process. They have all of those guns, all of that ammunition, all of those things taken from them without due process, without innocent until proven guilty. They're guilty until proven innocent simply because somebody said that they might be dangerous. And, there's no way that could ever get manipulated. Oh, no. It's not like the government would ever use that as an excuse to say, oh, you said a bunch of anti-government things, so therefore you must be dangerous and we need to take your guns away. And it's not like that was exactly what the Second Amendment was written for or anything. No, not possible. Don't know what you're talking about. Right? But there's one thing for sure, and that's that in that county, the redcoats have arrived. And those redcoats, guess what? The ones who are going to mull in all your lobbies, they're the frickin' police. They're the ones that the NRA wants to go ahead and worship. Like that? That's OC right there. You know you love it. I'll share that on my Facebook page in a minute. But now is the moment that you've all been waiting for. I know. Everybody does. It is Florida Man of the Week. And this week, not all heroes wear capes. Or shirts, apparently. The headline is Shirtless Florida Man Steals FHP Cruiser, Takes Off Down Highway at 150 miles per hour. A shirtless Florida man led deputies on a 150 mile per hour chase after stealing a patrol car on the turnpike. 22-year-old Shane Jensen is accused of stealing the FHP vehicle on May 2nd. It all started when a police trooper noticed the shirtless Florida man who appeared to need medical assistance on the side of the Florida Turnpike. After speaking to Jensen, the trooper went to talk to a Florida Department of Transportation road ranger. That's right, they have road rangers. Picturing a raccoon with like a little high-vis vest. Oh, man. Anyway, at this point, the Florida man ran to the cruiser, opened the door, and sped off. And there we have some of the screen captures from the cruiser as well as some body cam. And that is a glorious moment in the history of law enforcement as well as Florida Man. Troopers set up roadblocks for about 10 minutes. This guy had the patrol car for 10 minutes. Once the Florida man was stuck in gridlock, deputies approached him with guns drawn. One attempted to get into the passenger door, but Jensen busted a U-turn and managed to escape, weaving through traffic and hitting speeds of nearly 150 miles per hour without hitting anyone. Despite dangerously weaving in and out of traffic, nobody ever got injured, which means that statistically, this shirtless, probably drugged up as hell dude actually drove safer at high speeds than police officers do. Eventually, he ran over a spike strip and abruptly swerved to a stop. At that point, he took off on foot before being arrested in a wooded area. And I gotta say, for your shirtless theft of what should be your property, since you're a taxpayer and we pay for those vehicles, and your flight for freedom, oh, drugged up shirtless Florida man, we salute you. Florida man. That is all for today, guys. I really appreciate everybody who stuck with me and took a look. If you're watching this after it was live, because you couldn't watch it while it was live, I still appreciate the view and sticking it out to the end. Please feel free to share with your friends who are also pro-gun if they like pro-gun news. Again, I'm doing this bi-weekly now because weekly just ain't working for me with my new class schedule and things. But, you know, subscribe, like, whatever, do your thing. Definitely share with people. Anything that we can do to get the news out about the erosion of your freedoms would be great. Definitely check out, if you haven't, Firearms Policy Coalition. It's run by a bunch of really solid dudes, some of whom are also associated with the Dysfunctional Veterans. They also do a show weekly on gun news and things, and they're super awesome. They're a really solid group. Also, the GOA, Gun Owners of America. There are a few others. The Firearms Policy League, the FPL. And definitely support them. Do not support the NRA, because those jerks are not there for your freedom. Without further ado, though, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. This is one of my longest episodes, and I'm sure everybody's bored with hearing me. So you guys take care, and I'll see you hopefully Sunday when you tune in to the Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion that I'm also a co-host on. You guys have good, stay safe, stay real, laugh to heal.